A lot of guys, they thought that this was going to be a setup. They thought that you were going to be working in collaboration with federal law enforcement or local law enforcement. Now, I being a lawyer, right, I coming from that background, I know that that is infinitesimally improbable, right? I know that you're a YouTuber. There is an extremely low chance that I'm going to show up in some hotel in Ohio and all of a sudden the FBI is going to interdict me.
He's over there getting questioned by 4 police officers right now. There's have to be feds on his ass, right? I mean, that's the only explanation.
Hello, my name is Liam Bennett. This is a channel called Sly Boy, and I have absolutely no ties with the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is not something I've been able to convince the subject of today's video to be true. And after the series of events that transpired when I interviewed him, I really don't blame him. This is an individual I have made fun of on multiple occasions and didn't particularly pull my punches. Nonetheless, he was down to come in for an interview. That would be an individual who has named himself Captain Darth Aurelius, the founder of the International Brotherhood of Men and associated Incel Protection Force, a paramilitary group with a few incel-oriented political agenda points. Darth Aurelius is an extremely controversial figure, the most misogynistic man I've probably ever met, and what's more, sits at the center of an organization which has garnered quite a bit of public concern. The aim of this video is not to provide any credence to the incel cause, I reject it outright, but rather to at least understand the mind of a person like this, and perhaps even offer a humble off-ramp to anyone who's swept up in this ideology. Now, many people understand male loneliness, but inceldom is a step farther. And to understand the incel, we first must understand how this bitterness germinates in a young man's mind.
If you're somebody who, you come from my kind of background, all right? And my kind of background, we haven't really gotten a lot into my personal background, my trajectory in life, but I'm somebody who, of course, you probably suspect this about me, but I've had an extremely difficult time with the opposite sex, okay?
Yep.
Interpersonal relations for me, just totally non-existent, all right? I'm a guy in my late 40s, okay? And I'm not afraid to say it. I'll say it right out here in a fucking public park. I'm an incel, all right? Incel, and not particularly proud, but hey, you know what, it is what it is, and I don't disown it, all right? And I can say that the reason I have arrived at this particular point in my life, 40, late 40s on out, right, is because of a lot of the formative experiences that I had in my life. All right, a lot of the formative experiences that I had when I was going through high school, when I was in middle school, I looked around and I saw there were certain kinds of guys who they just, again, they had, you can call it game, you can call it charisma, you can have it, a certain vibe, right? And women, and not just that, but also the aesthetics, right? Because that's a big deal. You say, yeah, I'm a tall guy, right? But I don't have face game, okay? Right? There's other things that I don't have, right? I'm wearing a hat so you're not seeing my hair, and there's a reason why I'm wearing a hat, okay? Because I'm not gonna let you see my hair, right? Because it's nothing to write home about, okay? Now, a lot of that, all this stuff comes into the calculus, right? It's subtle, it's very small, but nevertheless, a lot of these women, they're making these distinctions based on subconscious considerations, okay? And they're seeing this and they're processing it subconsciously, and then they're making their decisions based on this calculus, all right? My point is that if you go through life and you never get positive reinforcement and validation from women because they never give you a fucking chance, all right? And again, I'm not holding it against them, right? I'm not a vindictive guy. I'm not out there to exact retribution. That's not my rhetoric. That's not my mantra. That's not what I'm saying, all right? You got guys who are extremely successful. They have harems of extremely attractive women, and that's all they do all the time. They don't even know what to do with all the women they have in their Tinder inbox, right? And then you got guys on the other end of the spectrum, and they are suffering, and they are walking through a fucking desert, okay? And there is no oasis, and there is no hope in sight, okay? Now, I've been through that desert, okay? I've been walking through that desert for nearly 48 years of my life, and I know what it feels like, and I know what it's like, all right? And it's horrible, and it's depressing, and it's immiserating.
Quick question, and be honest. How much DoorDash have you had in the last year? If we looked at your account, would you be embarrassed? I just saw something that gave me a pause. You know how the app needs your location to drop off food? There have been allegations that the app has been tracking way more than just the driver and sharing that info with third-party companies without your consent. Companies which may have used that information for their own commercial purposes. We're talking precise location data, like exactly where we are, without us knowing or consenting to it. It's a massive privacy concern because, look, we use the app for food, not to have our data shared for a profit. That is exactly why Morgan & Morgan is stepping in. They are America's largest injury law firm, and they're investigating this right now to help protect consumer privacy. So if you use the DoorDash app between 2023 and 2025, you need to check this out. You may be entitled to $750 or more. I put the link here and in the description and in the pinned comment. It takes literally less than 5 minutes for a free case review. Don't let them profit off your data for free. Go check it out. Now, sometimes it's the case with people who claim that no one likes them or wants them, that they just have too high standards for themselves. So I wanted to know what exactly it was that Darth was looking for in a woman, and his answer, I think, perhaps illustrates why no women want to get with him, because it almost feels as though he's not even looking for a woman. Hell, it almost feels as though he's not even looking for a human.
What's your ideal woman?
Well, in my opinion, women are kind of like cigars, actually.
Okay.
There's different flavors, different echelons. You got guys out there, maybe they like fat girls. Maybe they like midgets, right? Again, they're like cigars, right? I have a reasonable expectation that she ought to be in some way aesthetically commensurate to myself, okay? Because if you say to yourself, well, you know what? Anything goes. I'll take whatever comes at me. All right? It doesn't matter what she looks like. It doesn't matter if she's hairy and disgusting and she's had all kinds of guys. It doesn't matter what her body weight is. It doesn't matter. None of it matters, right? I'll just take her no matter what, okay? You're selling yourself short.
Okay, well, moving past looks, do you have like ideological requirements for a woman?
I really don't.
What about Muslim? Because you're Muslim. We haven't addressed that yet,
right.
But yeah, you're Muslim. Do you have that requirement for a woman?
No.
No, why is that?
I mean, look, I'm going to be totally transparent with you because I think honesty is the best policy. And I'm a guy who's really focused, I would say, almost exclusively on the appearance of a girl. Right? Now, I know that does sound superficial, right? And maybe that makes me a superficial guy in terms of my predilections, but nevertheless, that's the way I look at women, okay? Yeah, so I think, look, in terms of what I'm looking for a girl that just basically, one who takes care of herself, all right? I don't have outlandish expectations. I'm not looking for Kate Beckinsale Prime, Megan Fox Prime, Shakira Prime. I'm not looking for that, and I don't want that. I don't need that, okay?
I think so my thing is I think that there's a lot of women who want their man to appreciate them for something more than their looks. And I wonder if that's like a level of apathy that they can smell off of you.
All right, well, look, I can turn that right around on you, though, because I could say, look, there's a lot of fucking cunts out there. All they care about is a guy's bank account. All they care about is the trust fund, right? You've heard that meme, 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund, finance. Wait, is that how it goes?
Yeah,
I don't know, right? But okay, it's a meme, right? It's a cliche, but it captures a certain sentiment that is endemic to the minds of a lot of women, and that is the software that is operating on their brains.
But do you resent that sentiment in women?
All I'm saying is we want a principle of fair play. I do have slight autism, okay? I don't know how much of that vibe I put off, right? Maybe not a lot, maybe a whole lot. I'm not sure. It depends on where people's autism detectors are at. My problem is that in certain narrow circumstances, in certain sort of circumstances that happen to align with socializing with women, I find it to be very, very difficult to express myself in a way that they actually find compelling, okay? And you could say, well, you know what, that's just social anxiety, just, load up on the benzodiazepines, right? That's one way to do it. But the point is that even if I do that, well, when I do that, then I kind of lose the focus, right? The mental focus and the mental edge that is required to be spontaneous, right? That's required to be able to just kind of go out there off the cuff, off the fly, and be able to make sense and actually convince somebody that, you know what, you're actually a half decent guy and you're probably pretty normal too. I don't bring exclusively looks to the table. I'm not Zac Efron in the Baywatch movie, okay? Nor would I want to be in that movie.
You're tall though. You're quite tall, and that's a big one for women.
It's a big one, but then again, you got to take in the other considerations, okay?
What do you think the hang up is? What do you think the bottleneck is? The autism?
Oh, well, yeah, I think, well, no. Okay, so to the extent that the autism relates to an inability to actually go out there and engage in some kind of conventional social discourse with women, right? I tend to use a lot of big words. You guys may have noticed this in the course of this interview, all right? Now, I like to think that I talk like a 19th century philosopher, and maybe I do because I read a lot of Nietzsche, I read a lot of Marx, I read a lot of these guys from the 19th century, and you are what you read. People say you are what you do, but you are what you read in terms of how you express yourself. So that's the first point. I think that honestly comes across as being pretentious, as being pompous, as being condescending. I don't intend it. I don't want it. But nevertheless, what the fuck are you gonna do about it? Now, I think that autism is like that, okay? I think that's a serious impediment. I don't know if that's a constructive impediment. It's a hurdle that I can never fucking jump over. That plus the fact that, again, I got this social anxiety. Not when I'm talking with you, you're a guy, we're just a couple of guys sitting in a car, smoking cigars, having a conversation. Big fucking deal, right? But, you bring some hot girl in here, okay? And, would she be able, would I just shut down completely? Man, probably not completely, because I'm talking about things that I know a lot about. But the point is that
the confidence is not the same, maybe?
No, the confidence is definitely not the same. Absolutely. That's a problem, okay? The thing that I don't have, all right, and the thing that a lot of people do have, and they can't help that they have it, and they can't help that they don't have it, because again, this is an immutable characteristic. We call it game. Right? We've all said it, right? You got game or you don't have game, right? Yeah. You look like a guy who's got a lot of game.
Honestly, I appreciate that.
And it's just that, it's that cavalier sort of spontaneity, right? You just come up with shit on the fly, right? You're a funny guy, you're charming, you're charismatic, maybe superficially so, but nevertheless, there you have it. And women, they look at that, and again, if autism is the kryptonite of women, okay, game is the fucking unobtainium, all right? Or whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? Yeah. It's plutonium in Iran or something, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's worth a lot, okay? Now, game, it's like height. It's like, whatever, right? You either got it or you don't, okay? It's genetic. Now, there's physical characteristics that are considered to be, we would regard as disabilities, okay? They are preclusive, either categorically or mostly, they're preclusive of you actually having long-term sustainable, viable relationships, interpersonal relationships, or even social relationships with women, okay? And it's hard. It's hard for these guys. Again, because these are things...
So that, and not to cut you off.
No.
But, so that to me is like kind of my thing with this whole movement is, why are we trying to... Have you seen that SpongeBob episode where they push all of Bikini Bottom?
I'm not a SpongeBob guy.
You're not a SpongeBob guy?
I'm not. I'm more of a South Park guy.
That's why you're an incel, man.
That's why you're an incel. Come on now. South Park.
Oh, South Park's good. I like South Park. But there's an episode in SpongeBob where, I don't remember the context. Do you remember why they had to push Bikini Bottom, Logan?
The worm.
The worm. Just because the worm, yeah. The Alaskan bullworm was terrorizing the town, and so they literally pushed the whole town. Point is, with this whole thing, that's what it feels like what the incel cause is you want to push all of society towards you. Is it not easier to figure out a way to have that connection with the rest of society, or women, I guess more specifically?
So, a couple of points. First of all, we're going in a direction that is positively antithetical to that objective, our objective, which is bringing women down, I want to say bringing women down to our level, but making them see the world in a way that is not so circumscribed to their pretensions about incel men having autism.
But I think that's like what you kind of like said before you like fleshed out your point, was kind of the way people see it, is like you're trying to bring women down as opposed to trying to bring yourself up. I think that's the way it's perceived.
Well, no, hold on a second. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive, right? I mean, I'm a guy who really encourages my guys to go out there and do self-improvement, right? But however, I'm very aware of the fact that there are limitations to that, okay? Again, if you're a guy who's born, you're 4'11", okay? You got dwarfism or some bullshit, right? There's only so many bench press exercises you can do. Yeah. There's only so much you can do. Even if you're taking steroids and you look like, a miniaturized version of Arnold Schwarzenegger, people are still going to perceive you as a manlet, right? Mm-hmm. Now that is it's over for you, okay, to use an expression that we actually often throw around a lot, right? It's over. It never began, okay? The opportunities that you have, that you may conceivably have, were affirmatively and preemptively foreclosed by virtue of you having that genetic template. This is almost like it's a tale of two cities, all right? It's a tale of two brothers, all right? I got a brother, okay? He's been very, very successful with women his entire life, all right? Now, he is as dissimilar from me as you can possibly imagine, all right, in most ways. Not entirely, but he's tall, but in every other way he's dissimilar from me, okay? He's outgoing, I'm more introverted, all right? He's charismatic, I'm darkly charismatic, strangely and idiosyncratically charismatic, okay? He's some guy that he's got this natural affinity for just going out there and connecting with people in a very natural and a very sort of a way that doesn't feel feigned or faked or contrived, okay? Now, again, that's something that either you have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, you can't fake it. They say fake it till you make it. Well, not if it comes to these things that are, as I said before, are immutable characteristics. So anyways, I got this brother, right?
Yeah.
Successful with women, all the way before high school, okay? Now, what has that done to his mind? Well, he's had women approach him, and I've actually seen this, all right? We used to go to church together, all right? Before I was a Muslim, I was an atheist. Before I was an atheist, I was an agnostic. Before I was an agnostic, I was a Catholic, all right? Before that, I didn't know what the fuck I was because I was too young to actually think about it. But the point is that I was a Catholic, we went to Catholic church together, right? There were women that would actually come up to my brother in Catholic church and hand him little pieces of paper with their numbers on it, okay? And I could not understand. And he didn't say a fucking thing, all right? The guy didn't say a fucking thing. It was just based on how he carried himself, his demeanor, okay? Again, this is one of those things that they can intuitively sense, right? It's like autism except the opposite end of the spectrum, right? This guy's got game, he's got this vibe, you know, he looks like a really great guy. I'm gonna give him my number, okay? Now, what does that do? That creates a sense of validation, okay? It creates a sense of gratification. And what it also does is it feeds into the ego, right? Not to make you some egotistical or egomaniacal douchebag, but what it does is it gives you a sense of value in life, right? A sense of value in life so that you can orientate yourself based on that experience, right? And if you're successful with women early on, you know what? Chances are you're going to have at least enough courage to go out there and to make connections with women later on because you said, you know what? I got those experiences and I know they already like me, and so I'm already halfway there, okay? Now that makes you successful at other things in life too. It gives you confidence, right? And this is one of the things that people talk about when they're the pickup artists, right? And the guys who are the self-help gurus and they talk, you know, just try harder, man. They talk about confidence. Where does confidence come from? It comes from experience. And if you've never had the experience, how can you build the confidence? Now that's a fair point, okay? You know, you say with you it's been hit and miss. I think honestly, you're probably a representative sample of a lot of guys. Most guys are probably like that. They'd say it's hit and miss. It's not all hit, hit, hit. No, for some guys it is, okay? My brother, absolutely, right? I don't begrudge him that. It is what it is, all right? With me, it's miss, 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 okay? Or it's, you know, you never even get the chance to miss because you're not even fucking holding the dart, right? Because you're not even in the bar, all right? Because they kicked you out, all right? Because the bouncer said you're not even gonna get in here, using that metaphor, right? Yeah. So the point is that if you've never had that opportunity or those experiences, you're never going to have that reservoir of confidence that is based on that to go in there with that assertiveness, right? The kinds of things that actually women look for and they detect and they pick up and they respond to.
But I think it's like 99% mental, because like you talked about, we haven't even gotten into this, but like one thing the like your website talks about is like government subsidies for like cosmetic enhancements for incels and stuff like that. But I wouldn't even go there. Like just based off of what you're saying, it seems like in your own life, it's primarily been like it's whether you want to chalk it up to autism or whatever it is, that thing that doesn't connect with certain other people for you seems to be the primary bottleneck. Because I'll say right now, I don't think it's aesthetic. All right, not to make this gay or anything, but like you're tall as fuck. You know, you're a perfectly handsome dude. Like, I don't think women are looking at you and just immediately being like, no.
Now, I'll be honest with you, right? I also have a social circle. It's not a very big one, right? But like you, I've got a social circle. I got guys that I hang out with, right? I got, you know, some friends, right? And it's pretty tight-knit, like yours, right? I got a guy, guys who would do a lot of things for me, right? They're good friends. However, even if those guys were to introduce me to girls, and they don't, and the reason they don't is not because they think, oh, you know, you're gay or something, right? They know I struggle, right? But the reason they don't is because they know that I have a very, very difficult time actually articulating myself in the context of that kind of interpersonal dynamic. And so, because it's so cringeworthy, and because it's so intolerably cringeworthy for them, they don't want to set me up because they look at that and they say, you know what, I'm going to suffer vicariously because I'm going to experience you befuddling your way through this conversation, and it's just going to be humiliating and debasing and exacerbating, and I can't deal with it. And you know, a lot of people, because believe me, I've had so many blue pill people come to me, right? And they say, you know, your focus determines your reality. Another quote from Star Wars, actually, right? Your Star Wars fans are going to get a kick out of this, right? But your focus determines your reality. Now, I like that quote. It's a nice quote. It gives you hope. It says, you know, manifest destiny is all in your hands and all that kind of bullshit. But the point is that that is not a reality when it comes to what we're talking about, okay? If I could just mentally, in my mind, manifest my intentions into reality, I would manifest, again, I know this is becoming a trope, I would manifest Megan Fox right here, standing in front of me, okay? And then I'd manifest her over there in the motel that we just came from, right? On the bed waiting for me, okay? That's what I'd manifest. I wouldn't care what she had to think about or say about, right? As long as it was consensual. But the point is that that's literally what I'd have to do to go from A to B to C and connect those fucking dots, right?
Spending the afternoon with Darth, his MO is pretty clear. He would rather try to change the world than try to change himself. He's pushing Bikini Bottom. Towards this end, he founded the Incel Protection Force and the International Brotherhood of Men, again, a paramilitary group with certain political agendas. This organization's website and forums are chock full of reverent depictions of Elliot Rodger, who was a mass murderer and incel, killing 6 people and injuring 14 others in 2014. Now, to the normal human mind, this organization obviously looks like one that could be extremely dangerous. Darth, however, has gone on record to say that he denounces violence of any kind.
Okay, it looks like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that was over there, and then you moved.
I moved. I had to move.
Okay.
Stuff
Now you want that chair, I would assume. Is that
yeah, I'm gonna put you in the cuck chair. I'm sorry. Sorry, I had to do it to you. I had to do it to you. Not trying to come out with the power plays right off the bat. Let's just go to the beginning. Where did this start? Where did Incel Protection Force start?
All right, well, so there's my personal history, and then there's my personal history as it intersects with the ideas that I began to cogitate, and this would have been, within the last 3 years. I got involved in a forum called incels.is, okay? It's the largest, most notorious, most well-known, BBC, Sky News, they've all done this, all right? And I got involved in that forum in July of 2018. And ever since I was involved in that forum, the very first, right out of the gate, as soon as I got on there, I said to the guys, I said, listen, you guys have got to be doing more than sitting around all day on a forum, okay? Because you're not going to actually make any changes, right? I went on to incels.is, and like 95% of the people that go on there, they find it to be an incredibly dissatisfying experience, as is almost every other place you're going to find in the incelosphere, right? Because they're not doing anything, and they never have achieved anything. And the raison d'etre, the rationale, the guys who run that place, all they want to do is make money and sell special membership and get kickbacks, and and we've done this. We know these facts.
It's grifters.
They're grifters, all right, and they're in it for the wrong reasons. Their motives are disingenuous. Their motives are pecuniary, right? My motives have always been selfless, okay? Any revolution has an incipient stage, okay? You got to start talking about it before you actually act. And then in terms of action, right, because I know that's a concern that you and a lot of people have. They say, what is the action? What's the punchline? What's the end game? What are you actually getting, all right? So I have said, and I know you've actually given me full faith and credit to this, because I watch your stuff. I'm actually a big fan of yours. Maybe I can get an autograph when we're all done with this.
If
right?
you want to, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, maybe worth some money someday. The action, and I'm glad you asked that, because a lot of people, they're concerned. I have, and I know you've said this, right? You said this in your last video that you did on me. You said, this guy is he chooses his words carefully. He doesn't admonish any of his guys to go out there and exhort them to commit any sort of illicit and illegal actions. He's very careful about that. And I am very careful about that. I am absolutely, fundamentally, categorically committed, myself and my organization and my subordinates are committed to ensuring that we bring about this process in an entirely legal way that is consonant with the laws and the standards and the mores of the United States.
So how do you square that with the sort of, iconography that you seem to have instituted with like a character like Elliot Rodger?
Okay, so I think it's important to understand that when you're operating a forum, whether it's in the incelosphere, whether it's just a forum out there, it's a gaming forum or something, right? You gotta make it salacious. You gotta make it engaging. You gotta make it amenable to the sensibilities of whoever it is the target demographic happens to be, okay? And part of this is performative, okay? And I will go on record, I will say it now, I've said it before, I will say I do not encourage anybody to emulate the actions of Elliot Rodger, okay? I think that he was a misguided young man, but I also think that he had some interesting ideas, okay? And that's where I would draw the line. If he was just some guy, just take this hypothetical, right? If he was just some guy, forget about the killings, right? Forget about the BMW 328i, right?
That's a pretty big factor.
It's a pretty big hypothetical, right? And here's, if you take the hypothetical and you say that if he was just some guy and he wrote a great, ideological manifesto, right? He was the Marx of 2014, okay, in Isla Vista, right? Instead of being in Geneva, sitting around coffee tables with Lenin and Trotsky and the rest of those guys, he was in Isla Vista and he wrote this great manifesto and it went viral and a lot of people just kind of seized upon this and it revolutionized the world. All right, well, you know what? We'd have little pictures, icons of him like the Orthodox Church does in their houses or something, right? But yes, of course, he did terrible things.
What happens when one of these guys, because you've said you have people in your movement who do venerate him, and I presume people in your movement who do love him for the fact that he went and did this. So what happens when one of those guys goes and does something? Like, what happens to you then? What happens to your movement then?
Yeah. So, I mean, no, those are fair points. And I think that the first thing to say is that, look, as you said, no historical figure, no living contemporary figure is going to be 100% good. And they're not going to be 100% bad. There's shades, there's sort of a million shades of gray in terms of the goodness and the badness. And at the end of the day, you kind of look at the good that they did in their life and the bad that they did in their life. And this is kind of the balancing test, right? And then we come out and we kind of run the numbers and we say, you know, either they're more good or they're more bad, depending on what they did. We don't officially put Elliot Rodger forward as an ambassador or a representative or a figurehead for this movement. I just want to close the door on this. We do not officially elevate him. Now, if certain of my constituents and my comrades seek to...
Well, to push back on that, you have used his name in your propaganda material. I think you've said, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, "Hail Patron Saint Elliot Rodger," or something like that.
Okay.
Today, I stand before majestic and beautiful Lake Elliot Rodger, named for our hero, our great martyr, the eternal founding father of the Incel Revolution, Elliot Rodger, peace be upon him.
Well, yeah, and that's not an exact quote, but look, that's a fair... Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm not...
But something along those... I don't know what you said
I'll concede
exactly.
that I spoke in reverential tones,
right?
I'll say, okay? But again, you have to do that in order to communicate in a language that is intelligible to the people whom you're talking to. You can try to sanitize and normalize a lot of our rhetoric and a lot of our ideology and make it more palatable to the sensibilities of the people out there who we ostensibly want to align with, or at least we don't want them hating us to the extent that they probably do right now because they see Elliot Rodger with a halo above his head. Okay, that's one way to go. But if you do that, then what you're going to inevitably, I think just inescapable, the conclusion is going to be that a lot of the guys who are really very fanatical in their convictions, right? They're very sincere, they're very loyal, they really truly believe, they want to see the revolution consummated just like I do. And they're potentially men of action, but for the fact that they just don't have the resources, and a lot of these guys are just kids. I mean, they're not, under the age of 18, but they're young people, right? And they just don't have the means. A lot of those guys are going to say, you're betraying what I thought were some of our core principles. It's like the alcohol analogy, right? You're into mixology, right? You understand how to make a mixed drink, right? Even though we're not drinking, we're drinking it straight, neat, I suppose. But look, I could throw some of this water in here and I could blend that, I could contaminate that stuff with water, right? And you'd say, probably tastes like ass if I did that, right? It's meant to be tasted 100% unadulterated because otherwise you lose the nuance, as you said, to use that word, right? You lose the subtleties, right? The sommelier is going to say, what the fuck is this, right? You completely discredited this excellent fine bourbon that you have here.
Yeah, but the only difference with those analogies is I don't usually mix mass murder into these drinks. That's the one vital distinction.
So this interview ended up getting cut a little shorter than originally intended. We were shooting at a hotel, obviously, and we both left the hotel intending to move to a final location to get a couple more shots, at which point, as I was driving immediately outside of the hotel, I noticed a police cruiser with the engine on sitting on an adjoining road, and the second we moved past, he pulled out behind us. A second cop car pulled out in front of us. And then the following happened.
So we are 100% getting tailed by the police right now. There's 2 cop cars that pulled out of here right behind us. So, oh, there we go. He's getting flagged down. I mean, they got everybody. He's got to be correct. They're like, there's have to be feds on his ass, right? I mean, that's the only explanation. I mean, he hasn't done anything. He's just talked to us in a parking lot.
That is true.
Unless if he's done some shit I don't know about. What happened was, when we were in the parking lot smoking cigars earlier, we noticed the manager was filming us on his phone, okay? Whatever. It looked like we were doing like maybe an operation here that might be for YouTube or something, so sometimes people film stuff when I'm out and about, right? Didn't think much of it, moved on. All right, we shot elsewhere. We came back to the hotel to grab some stuff, and then the same manager came up to me and was like, "What are you guys doing?" He was being very friendly. I was like, "Oh, I'm on YouTube." He was like, "Oh, that's so cool. What's your YouTube?" I give him my YouTube. He like subscribed on his phone. He's like, "You got to teach me sometime or whatever." I was like, "Oh, haha, yeah, no." But anyway, see ya. And we got out, and then immediately after coming out of the parking lot, Darth was following me, and I saw a police officer waiting with his engine on at the gas station that we were driving past. Soon as we went past, they pulled out. I was like, they have to be tailing us. And then another one did the same thing up in front of us. And then he's over there getting questioned by 4 police officers right now. We were just 2 guys filming a conversation in a parking lot. I didn't think it looked that scary. It didn't, right?
No.
It was like, yeah, it just looked like some guys filming a YouTube video. So it has to be feds.
There has to be something.
That's the only explanation, is that it's feds.
Jesus Christ, dude. I thought that was a fucking setup, man. Oh my God, did you see all that shit?
So
man,
you're,
that's gonna be
yeah, the
quality,
feds
dude.
are on your ass.
I told you.
Yeah, the feds are on your ass.
The fucking, I thought I was going to fucking Bolivia. I thought I was going to fucking Bolivia tonight, Dad. I was gonna end up in fucking prison with MS-13 raping my ass tonight, man.
Yeah. So
like,
they
seriously,
did they give you a ticket for the license?
No,
or
he
something?
just gave me a warning. He was totally
Okay.
cool about it.
All right. Yeah,
And the
yeah.
guy actually, he told me, right, he was like, oh, these guys are all like new officers. They're all recruits. So we're doing like the education with, exactly. I'm like, dude, I can smell your bullshit from like a mile away, man.
No, there's no way.
So anyway, I hope you boys at Langley enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. If you want to hit the notification bell, you know, I would much appreciate it. The world of incels is fascinating to me. There are obviously a plethora of very disturbed and dangerous people within it, but I do think sunlight is the best disinfectant. I hope that some incels at least gain some understanding that banding together and joining in their bitterness only pushes them all farther away from the rest of us, not closer. And if there's anything I hope this video illustrates, it would be that. Anyway, goodbye.